In this video, I am buying my first sailboat and sailing it 500 kilometers back home through multiple seas. And it did not go as planned. We even had to be rescued. So, for a little bit of context, a couple of months ago, I was looking on DBA, which is the Danish marketplace, for a boat because, I really wanted a sailboat and I had no idea what prices they were. I found one that was 5,000 Danish kroners, which is about $750. I would have said it seemed too good to be true, seeing as it would come with an outboard motor and everything the previous owner had for it. The only downside was, it's in Copenhagen, which is 5 hours with public transport from where I live and a couple days sailing by boat. So I talked to a friend of mine who has way more experience than me when it comes to buying boats and sailing. And I convinced him to go to Copenhagen with me and go look at the boat. And if we liked it, we would sail it back to Aarhus, which would be about 2 days of sailing if all conditions were perfect, of course. So up we went to Copenhagen, dropped our stuff at a friend's place, biked to the harbour in the evening, and the next thing you know, we're in the south of Copenhagen at a harbour meeting this guy that's selling his boat for $750. We're at the harbour, first time seeing the boat. It's not in a great condition, but I would say it's in pretty good condition. You can see the owner had put all the stuff that comes with it inside the boat. But to be honest, it looked really nice and I was getting super excited because for $750, this seemed like a really good deal. The only problem was that it was stored on land for the past years, so we needed to order a crane truck to come and hoist it off its stand and into the water. Now of course, the bottom needed work because the boat hadn't been used in a long time, but to us the condition looked good enough to sail it back home. After this, we also walked with Torben the owner to where the mast was stored and the roller furlegs that has the front sail on it, so we could take a look at the mast and all the lighting. Everything worked on it and it all checked out, so me and my friend went into Copenhagen to have a nice evening before we had to wake up super early and pick up the boat and sail. We woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning so we could take all our stuff and be at the harbour at 7. Because the truck with the crane on it would arrive at 7:30 to hoist the boat into the water.
Stepping in on the place got me feeling lucky. Yeah, stepping in on the place and I'm like it's okay. NXT.
The truck hire was 1,000 kroner, or $150, and it took about 20 minutes.
I got some news for you, yeah, this music be new to you, but it's not no new to me. It come easy like 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, girl on the floor, I know touch no never before. Girl them they whine like they got moto, engine they rev when she been low. I they cool, but tonight I go show me I live one life, I go slow mo. She say bye bye, you they burst in my bed, ooh. I say nagado, I no even try to. Now where they J, no wahala.
It was a very unreal feeling seeing my boat get hoisted up to a truck. I had of course never owned a boat before, so realizing that this was my sailboat getting hoisted up to a truck and getting put into the water was just unreal. Seeing my boat on the back of a truck driving through the harbour was definitely a sight I had never imagined I would see. But the whole thing went super smoothly. Of course, after this you still have to attach the mast. This is done with the help of a mast crane. It took us about half an hour to attach the mast, after which we still had to park it into a normal berth so we could do the sails.
One babe say she like my vibe, the way I they move, I make her high. I just smile and I got do. Tonight make we dance, no hold.
I wasn't able to film any of that process because the weather kept changing and it was raining a lot in between. But we managed to get everything set up and sailed out of the harbour at around 11:30 in the morning.
Music loud but the soul still free now. NXT, yeah, you know the key. We dey bless the beat naturally. Naturally. And they they say, and they say, and they say. Now wait DJ, no wahala. Girl them shake for the baddest balla. Life stay blink, DJ don't holla. One more tune so we scatter. No time to play.
That day, we ended up sailing for about 5 hours, which brought us 28 nautical miles, or about 50 kilometers up north towards Helsingør, which is a city on the top right corner of Sjælland. The same island Copenhagen is on. That's where we ended up parking the boat at the harbour. Fun fact about the castle that you see next to the harbour in Helsingør, it's actually called the Kronborg Castle, and it's a Renaissance stronghold that famously is the setting of Shakespeare's Hamlet. It guards the narrow strait where Denmark and Sweden meet, built in the 15th century. My friend and I had to return back to Aarhus to work for the week. We would return again the weekend after and hopefully be able to make our way across Kattegat to Aarhus the next time. But neither of us knew the adventure that was waiting for us when we returned.
Festival going on in Helsingør today. While we wait for the wind to get less. It's starting to die down now. It's like 12 knots, 13 knots wind. We're kind of waiting till like 9 knots or so. But I think we can go out soon. Nice.
To Gilligan, many adventures, many fun sailing trip. Got it in Copenhagen, sail around Sjælland up to Aarhus. Work on the boat, sleep on the boat, me and enjoy myself.
Hello, the rest of the world.
After having sailed through a perfect sunset, the biggest turnaround of the trip happened. At around 10:30 in the evening, it was nearly dark and we were planning on making it till Hundested, which is about 10 hours sailing from Aarhus, when all of a sudden the motor stopped working. We had a full headwind, so we couldn't continue straight forward anymore. We were left with little choice but to turn around and go with the wind to the nearest harbour we had passed, which was Gilligan. We had slept on the boat for a couple of hours to get some rest and get the engine starting again. So as optimistic as we were, we went out and tried to continue towards Aarhus again. But yeah, that didn't last longer than 10 minutes before the motor gave up again. So we turned back around downwind to Gilligan. Back in the harbour, we took a walk to the gas station to fill up the reserve jerry can with some fuel. It was here that I also decided to take the motor apart and try to inspect what the problem was. After checking the oil, the spark plug, the fuel filter, and everything I could access with the limited tools we had, we still couldn't get the engine going. Our biggest issue this weekend was that there was a strong headwind with a lot of strong gusts coming at us when we tried to sail towards Aarhus. So with my little boat, it wasn't possible to make the crossing to Aarhus without the motor.
Oh, over there is the harbour we just slept at and came from. tried to go out that direction to Aarhus, but the engine stopped working. Yeah. So because the wind is in this direction, it's about impossible to go in the direction of Aarhus, so we're forced to go back to where we came from. Because we couldn't get into the harbor either anymore because of the wind.
Of course, we were aware that we could tack our way to Aarhus, but the problem was that it would turn 10 hours of sailing into 20. Plus, it would be open sea, so quite rough conditions. And at this point, we just wanted to sail and use the boat in good conditions. We tried getting back into the harbor that we slept at, but this maneuver into the harbor was impossible with just the wind and no motors, for us. So we ended up choosing to go the other direction. Sailing in this direction was absolutely perfect. With the wind in our backs, we were picking up speed as we went further. The only thing was that it was a bit of a bad feeling to pass Helsingør again, because we had just left from there the day before. But we were making great progress, and the plan was to go all the way around the bottom of Sjælland, which in theory of course is much further lengthwise, but also according to us it would just be way more fun because we could actually sail and be less dependent on the motor. Throughout this day of sailing, we had made a lot of progress and actually had passed the harbor we had bought the boat at again. This meant that we are now south of Copenhagen and had to plan where to dock the boat next, since it was getting dark again. And it was at this moment our next problem happened. At about 9:30 in the evening, the wind had completely died down, and of course we had no motor, so the boat stopped sailing here. We had called DSRS, which is the Danish Coast Guard run by volunteers. About an hour later, they came to our rescue and they towed the boat for 2 hours to the nearest harbor, in Faxe.
Leaving Faxe Harbor. Faxe with a super tiny amount of wind.
So we had slept at Faxe, and the next morning we tried to sail out of the harbor and continue our journey. But as you could see in the video, there was a very small amount of wind, and we had to go through a very difficult to maneuver area called Bøgestrøm. We had made several attempts going through it, but we couldn't get enough speed to go straight through all the buoys. So we returned back to the harbor and had to make a new game plan because we also had to return back home to work again for the week. Later I saw that we got posted on the website of the Coast Guard. And here you can see a small map of our attempt to go to Bøgestrøm, with no success. So we had gone home for the week and worked and returned the next weekend. In the meantime, I had contacted an outboard motor mechanic who had taken a look at my motor and said he got it to run. But on our return there at the harbor, we realized that the motor didn't run much longer than 5 minutes before shutting off again. And the mechanic had told us that it needed a big service, but the parts needed for that would take another week to arrive. So it was then and there that I made an executive decision to look for a new outboard motor in the area. I had found someone that wanted to sell me a 6 horsepower Mercury outboard motor, the same one I already had, but this one was new and only had 2 hours of running time on it.
Took the motor off. Now put the motor in the boat. Time for a proper motor.
This set me back around $1,200 or 10,000 Danish kroner. But it was the only option I could buy that would also deliver and mount the motor the same day, since it was a Sunday. And my friend and I had to work again on Tuesday, so we needed to get going out of that harbor.
New engine. Yeah, it's super reachable. go.
So finally, after several weeks, we could once again continue our trip towards Aarhus. The new motor worked perfectly, and we even got a little bit of wind in our favor. This next part of our trip would bring us all the way to Korsør, which is where the connection bridge between Sjælland and Fyn is. This would be a practical harbour for us to do our last stop before we get to Aarhus, because we could easily take the train from here to our job and make it just in time for our 8 o'clock shift on Monday morning. That meant we had to sail throughout the whole night and ended up arriving at Korsør Harbour at 6 in the morning. Our train left at 10 past 6 in the morning, which meant we had to jump in a taxi the moment we arrived and drive straight to the station. It was so close that when we arrived on the platform, the train just rolled in. We had made it in time to go to work and continue the last and final part of the trip the next time we had off from work. Finally, I couldn't believe it. The day had arrived. I woke up at 3 in the morning because we only had this one day off to get the boat back. We took the train at 4 o'clock in the morning from Aarhus to Korsør and arrived around 6:30 in the morning at the harbour.
You own it, now stop it, yeah. Hold it, put the legs backwards and fold it. Take a step back and tow it. Now the club's smiling, you own it.
And we were off. On this day, we had perfect sailing conditions. We couldn't have asked for a better day to sail into Aarhus for the first time. Today was gonna take us about 8 to 10 hours to sail all the way to Marselisborg Harbour.
Dance with together, so wreck it. Coming to the club like I said it. You just fuck it up and XT. Jeans is in the club all night. I'm going crazy, Lord save me. Never get lazy or Popo finna tase me. I sit here every day and I'm waiting to get paid. Man, I hope you're here to stay, but if that is not the case, then you can make your way out the front door. And if that is not the case, you can make me stunt more. You can make your way out the front door. And if that is not the case, you can make me stunt more.
Marselisborg Harbour. This would end up being my parking spot for the coming months, thanks to Jeppe, my friend that has helped me get the boat all the way to Aarhus and let me use his berth. I also made use of his knowledge about boats to make sure that we were doing the right thing here. Of course, the moment when my boat was in the harbour and I had time off, I went back to the boat, bought a pressure washer and immediately got to work. I find it so incredibly satisfying to take all the dirt and grime off from storing this boat for years on land and see its new look. I wasn't able to finish up the whole boat with the pressure washer because I was too excited to go sailing. Last but not the least, the best step of all is I got to rename the boat. I chose the name Gilligan, based off of a series my brother and my dad and I used to watch when I was young. It's an American sitcom called Gilligan's Island, with a sailor and his crew that gets shipwrecked on an island. I know it sounds a bit unfortunate, but it just brought me so many good memories watching that, so I thought the name suited my little boat perfectly.
So nice, super clean.
Damn!
And if you guys are interested in watching me fix up my boat and adventures I might take it on, definitely let me know. I'll be happy to make a next video and catch you guys up with Gilligan. Thank you so much for watching this video, and of course, like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell icon, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.
Gilligan, the boat called Gilligan, changed the name from Tuka to Gilligan. Many adventures, many fun sailing trip, got it in Copenhagen. Sail around Sjælland up to Aarhus, work on the boat, sleep on the boat. Me I enjoy myself.